Good
Good
evening.
evening. How are you?
Good.
That's good. I'm glad to hear.
I will not complain.
Not at all.
No, good. God has been too good.
Yes, he has. Yes, he
Yeah.
truly has.
And we are back at it again. Um, well, I'm sitting up here trying to play around with the camera. We are back at we are back at it again tonight, talking about being beautifully flawed and versus dysfunctional. We have a special guest on tonight, and we are so happy and glad about that because we love when we have special guests on the show.
Yes, we do.
hmm
Makes for an interesting conversation.
Yes, most definitely interesting conversation. And I know how last week we talked about what's on the inside of us is what defines us.
Right,
Um,
right,
it's not the things that are outside of us that we do externally that will defile us. It's our heart that's on the
right.
inside of us that will defile us. And we were talking about, I'm just giving a little snapshot of what we talked about on last week. And we were talking about there's a big difference between being beautifully flawed and versus dysfunctional because
Right,
just like the purpose of your kidney. If your kidney failed or it is no longer getting rid of waste, then the doctor will say you have kidney dysfunction.
that's right.
So the same way with our heart, when it comes to how the way we treat people, how the way we treat ourselves, the decisions that we make, they can be a little bit self-destructive or dysfunctional. So I know how spiritual folks love to call it brokenness, but psychologists call it dysfunction.
Yeah,
Um, and so that means that you have to get the help that you need so that you can become a functional human being.
right,
Living a functional life, it is going to be beautifully flawed, but at least it won't be dysfunction. You know,
right. Because again, there's a big difference.
yeah, there is a big difference. And that even goes towards being mindful of the people that we have hanging around us, the people that we entertain. you know if you hang around with like people that would say quote unquote toxic people, then you could become toxic yourself.
Right, it spills over on you.
Yeah. And just like Jesus was saying in the Bible, the blind gonna lead the blind person into the pit.
Right,
So
exactly.
you don't want to be hanging around somebody that's blind, or especially when you can see.
Right.
You can see way past what they can see, but you still hanging around with them. And
Mm,
and you really not going to get anything from that person because they're blind.
right, right. They're
It's
not
like,
giving it. They're not giving anything to you, and at this point, you're not even giving anything to them.
exactly. So that is a big difference. So we will continue to talk about that this week, but we have a special guest that will be coming on here tonight.
Yes, I'm
Um,
excited.
Her name is Tracee Garner. I'm gonna introduce her. Tracee Lydia Garner is a best-selling, award-winning author with 12 titles. She holds a degree in communication and has been in the writing and publishing for almost 20 years. She hosts her own annual conference in Northern Virginia for aspiring writers and has penned a nonfiction self-help book of wonderful advice for life journey. After getting her foot in the door through a first time writers contest at 23 years of age, Tracee won the national contest and was able to obtain contracts for her next few books. That is awesome. She is
Mm,
also a case manager by day at a DC area nonprofit and enjoys making video book trailers for her books and is a Canva addict. So we're gonna welcome on Tracee Garner.
All right. Ready to
Yes,
get this started.
yes.
Hey.
Hey,
Welcome,
hel-
Tracee.
hello, hello, hello. How are y'all
How are
doing?
you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks
Good.
so much for having
That's
me.
good.
It's a pleasure.
Trying
We are
to
so
keep my head straight.
uh, we're so excited to have you, Tracee, and thank you again for being a guest on the Issues of Life Talk Forum. And we appreciate you, especially when you're going to talk about tonight
Hmm.
about um, finding your way through limitation and embracing what you like to call your unfavorite.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's right.
I like how you redefined because I'm so big on redefining things.
Mm,
Yeah.
I like how the way you redefined limitations because some people love to call them disabilities, or they'll try to tone it down to limitations, or tone it down to an impairment. But you call it unfavorite. So
Mm.
there are some things that we just don't like.
that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Say that.
Yes. It's not our favorite. That's
hmm
right.
It's okay to be honest about that. You know, it's okay
Right.
to say, look, I don't like the fact that, like for me, for example, there was a time in my life I did not like the way I talk,
Hmm.
but I was born with a hearing loss, um, and growing up as a child, there are certain letters that you can't hear, so of course you're going to have a speech impediment.
Hmm.
So I just didn't like the way I talk, the way I sound. And so as I got older and gave my life to Christ, I had to learn how to love myself the way that I am.
Mm.
Hmm. That's right.
Because it's okay to be different.
That's right. It's
Definitely. Thank
okay.
God. Thank God we're different. We was all the
Yeah.
same.
Ew,
Some of us probably
would
have to
be so
take somebody
boring.
else out.
Yeah, it's okay to be different.
That's
And,
right.
and that's what we have to show people, that it's
Hmm.
okay to be different, because we still have some people that just prejudice against differences.
Totally.
Right. That is so true.
Hmm.
So true.
So come on, Tracy, get to popping, girl, get to talking. Don't sit up here and have me and Felicia talking all the time, because
All right.
we,
Well, I
we,
was just,
we do love to talk. We do
yeah.
love to,
Yeah, we do.
know,
We do.
interrupt each
I just
other,
definitely,
especially when it's something interesting. So come on with it, girl. Tell us what you got for us tonight.
definitely. Well, I just wanted to, I wanted to allow you to finish, what you were saying about when you have a perceived limitation. I say perceived because we let other people put limits on us. And
Mm,
so it's your perception, really. It's not mine.
Amen.
Your perception
I like that.
is not the way that if I lived my life by people's perceptions, I wouldn't do nothing. I just collect a check, stay home, get fatter, and just kind of try to just breathe, I
Yeah.
guess. And
Yeah.
so I think that you have to be careful, and the more you accept and learn to embrace your unfavorites, you'll be able to move on with your life a little bit faster. I feel like those that continue to resist, they're the
Mhm.
ones that have the real problems. They're the ones who can't get on with their life sometimes because they're stuck. And it's like it takes you half the day to accept how it's going to be when you can go ahead and accept it as soon as you wake up and then
Mm,
move forward with your day. So, a lot of people are still working through things that they have, but the longer you have something, just like someone who's, newly injured, the first few months, maybe even the first year is really, really difficult. But then they learn or relearn a way in which to, get through it, and it becomes easier and easier. So it's a time waster to resist
Mhm.
change and to resist, the way you feel about yourself. You should go ahead and accept it, and then we can move on. Like, let's go. We don't have time for that.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that.
I know how you said that people put those limits or labels, because
Mhm.
I was gonna add labels. And then we allow those people to put those limits on us or labels on us, because it's okay to just tell somebody, that that's not me.
Mhm.
We're not going to define me by um, my unfavorite, or
Right.
what it is that you see a difference in me.
Mhm.
And it's okay to tell that person. You can stand up for yourself and say, it's okay for me to be different. It's okay for me to be different than you. Because we all are not alike anyway.
Right.
But when you're having something that is noticeable,
Mhm.
people are going to look, people are going to say something.
Right.
They are going to judge you by the cover first
Mhm.
before they even get to know you.
Right.
you
And
know.
you have to be careful too, because other people's perception and expectations begin to infiltrate your brain and your mind.
Mm.
And when they do that, then you that causes self-doubt. So if somebody says, oh, you can do this or you can do that. I gave an example yesterday at a workshop I did a vision board workshop. It's time to plan for 2020, and I was at a
Mm-hmm.
women's conference event, and I was telling the story about how I asked one of my caregivers who was new. She'd been there for about, 4 or 5 days. And I asked her to get me 2 eggs and put them on the table. And she looked at me and said, "What you gonna do?" And I was kind of like, almost like wanted to have like a fake stroke so she could come real close to me and I could slap her. But I didn't do that
What?
because, I was like, because I just had to come to myself for a minute. Like, if I asked you to do something and I know what I can do, just because you don't know what I can do, that is not my fault. Just do what I asked. I have the belief that I'm going to scramble these, I'm going to make some toast, and I'm going to eat my breakfast, because I can't do things, but I can't reach up into the fridge and get stuff out. So all of my caregivers are, they put stuff out on the table for me, and I go and do what I need to do. And so for her to like question me, like, I hired you, I did an interview for you, we met at the
Wow.
library, like I did
Wow.
all this stuff, I got this far, and you're gonna ask me what am I gonna do with the eggs that I asked you to get, that I hired you? I mean,
Mhm.
nobody else facilitated her being my caregiver. I facilitated all of that. And so I was really annoyed, you know. And she kind of came back to herself a little bit and kind of apologized.
Mhm.
um, I managed not to have a smart retort, but in my mind, I was just kind of going through this like kung fu sweet sequence of like, I'm gonna take her out, or I'm gonna just run her over or something. But I'm not prone to violence. But I just had like to come to myself in my head that I asked you to do something so I could be empowered to do something for myself. You don't have to worry about the logistics of what I'm about to do. You just do what I asked, That's what you're here for, to do kind of what I ask and what I need and help facilitate my independence. So that was just
Tracee,
something that happened recently.
you gave thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to really interject there because I'm on the other side of that, in the sense of that caregiver's role.
Hmm.
Not truly a caregiver anymore, but in some regard, and that's for my mother. My mother is partially
Hmm.
blind, and so,
Right.
I like to say, and I've gotten more into the habit, and even herself visually impaired. But if we get into the specifics of it, she basically only has maybe a good maybe 20% vision, and
Hmm.
so it's a challenge for her.
Right.
Being with her pretty much all my life. I'm her only child. And when she's had various surgeries and things of that nature, I've seen her at her worst and I've seen her at her best. And so I like to say, and her and I have this discussion, like I know her. Like nobody know her like I do, other than God Himself. Like I
Hmm.
know her. So when I see her in situations or she wants to do something, and I know it's a moment of empowerment, and I know it's a moment of her just being independent,
Right.
sometimes I have to catch myself and not feel like I need to interject, not feel like
Hmm.
I need to, oh, okay, I already see, like, because for me, when she's doing something, my mind is 2, 3 steps ahead. Like, okay, I've already played the scene out. And
Right.
I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I already see what's about to happen. Let me just
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and interject and let me stop. Which, from my shoes, that's not all wrong. At the same token, I like what you said
Right.
because I asked you to do that for me, or
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do this. Allow me to do that,
Mm-hmm.
or let me do this. Give me what I've asked you for because you know what you reason why you did it. You know
Right.
why you want it. You know
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing.
Yes.
Let me
Yeah.
do what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And
Yeah.
let's say there is a collision. Let's say there is something that happens. So be it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So be it. So thank you for sharing that because
Mm-hmm.
that was actually a reminder for me with my mother,
Mm-hmm.
to just be mindful and sometimes step back and allow her that independence. And if she getting it, let her get it. And if something happens, it happens. We're not gonna lose no sweat over it. Do what we
Right.
need to do, and we move on. The day moves
That's right. And the other thing, with that, with your mother, declining in her health and her vision and eyesight, is that don't forget there's dignity in trying.
on. Right.
That person needs to try as much as they can. So that is something that is important to them. They
Hmm.
have to keep going as long as they can. It is important for me, as simple as it may seem to you, it is important for me to
Yeah,
continue to try to cook for myself and do the things that I can do so I can also preserve my muscles and keep them from degenerating,
I like
more
that.
extensively than they already are. And the other thing is that, people need to stop acting like, only people with disabilities drop eggs. I may drop an
Right,
egg, I
right.
may
Because I know I've
lose a
dropped
little.
parts.
Everybody does that. That is not,
Right.
unique to people with disabilities to drop an egg, to get a little shell in there, just fish it out. It's just that is part of trying, that is part of, living your life.
Mhm.
And we have to stop acting like, that people with disabilities are prone to more mistakes and more
Yeah.
issues than other people. I've seen perfectly, able people drop stuff,
All the
all the
time.
time. Do I
Right.
discount them? Oh, you can't make eggs anymore. You dropped one. Like, I just that just doesn't happen. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's so true. But those are some good points that you were saying that
Right.
you and Felicia were saying about don't be in the way of somebody else's empowerment because
Yes, I love
if
that.
they feel, if they feeling that they can be able to do it, then give them the opportunity to do it
Right.
instead of,
Hmm.
asking them 1,001 questions.
And
I know,
what you
I know
said,
I'm
Tyler, is perfect.
exaggerating. Hmm.
Give them
Hmm.
the opportunity.
That's
Don't
right.
take that opportunity away.
Hmm.
Don't take that away. Just give them the opportunity.
Exactly.
And if it fails, at least they said, I tried.
That's
I
right.
had the
Try.
opportunity, and no one blocked
Exactly.
that and hindered that.
Right.
Exactly.
And that person, that caregiver, had only been here, less than a week, and I hadn't made anything
Wow.
because she was making assumptions, she was
Right.
making judgments, and you also let the representative of somebody else you cared for, you use that as a blanket, to say that all people, everybody she's
Hmm.
ever cared for,
Yeah.
needed their food cut
And that's
up or
unfair.
needed, it really isn't fair. And where's your opportunity to learn? At least keep your thoughts to yourself and let me
Exactly.
show you what I can do
Right.
before you assume that I
Right.
can't.
Right. And so this also goes for parents too when they have younger ones who are, I don't like using the word disability, but who have limitation, and they don't give them the opportunity to fall
Hmm.
Right.
or to rise because
Right.
you really don't know if they're going to rise or fall.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you don't want to be crippling them,
Yeah.
But there are some people who will um, try to make a person feel like they can't do something or
Hmm.
because they see that there's a limitation. But even with, you know, parents who have younger ones, this is good for them as well because
Right.
their
Absolutely.
parents, they're like, well, I don't think they can do it, but still.
Right.
Because it
Yes.
doesn't matter what you
Hmm.
think. Have you
Yeah,
allowed them to try?
That's
exactly.
right. And actually, for some people with physical disabilities. I have muscular dystrophy. I see a lot of
Mm,
parents that let their children, just stay on the floor and do nothing. They don't try to help sit them up, maybe give them some pillows, have them reach for things, have them try to pick up a little bowl, maybe eat some Cheerios, sit
Mm-hmm.
up, try to feed yourself. And, you're really hurting those children because they could die prematurely just because you haven't tried
Exactly.
mm,
to condition their muscles to make them grow. My mom used to let me fold washcloths and things and put things at my feet and say, here, do that, and just never, gave up. She didn't coddle me. She,
yeah,
had me setting the table, from my hands and knees. I could pull myself up and put, the fork
Exactly.
and the plates and stuff. And she'd just put it all there in one pile at the table and say, here, put everything at everybody's place setting. Just little things like that can really make a difference as
It
far
can make
as
a huge
the
difference.
life expectancy
yeah,
of, people with certain neuromuscular diseases. It's not always
Mhm.
going to be the case. Some people's muscles are going to be really underdeveloped, but you don't really know that until you try. You haven't even tried. You
Exactly.
just kind of, put bumpers around everybody and don't let them
Mm-hmm.
brush up against things where that's where the strength comes and the ability to do things comes from is that bumping up against stuff, getting, blocked, falling down. All of that is just part of the growing process.
mm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is a blessing. That's good. And
it
so,
is.
Tracy, you have wrote a book called Pack Light.
Mhm.
There was something behind it. What was it behind it? Your life journey.
Well, it's like seven stories. There are about, I think, 7 or 9 chapters in there. One is called Queen Gimp. One is called, Fight the Bullies. That's about workplace bullying. And they're just 7 little life things that everybody has and how to
Mm-hmm.
kind of handle them. Even being invited, there's called The Invitation. That's about, how can all of us do our part to promote diversity and to welcome diverse groups to the table. Before the whole, getting a seat at the table thing, it was kind of like, what can you do? If you're a white woman, can you invite, a black friend or his Latino friend
Mm,
or, what have you? All of us have the power to increase the exposure that people have. A lot of business groups, business women organizations inviting other people to come along. And sometimes people won't have those opportunities unless you open your mouth and give them a chance and say, hey, come with me to this business function I'm going to go to. And you'll be able to meet some
Mm-hmm.
different people and stuff like that. So, just some different things that I've experienced and how I got through them and what I learned from the lesson.
Okay.
I like that.
And your the first chapter of the Pack Light, you were talking about the Queen Gimp.
Yeah, Queen Gimp is a term
Yeah.
that I kind of embraced. It's a very old word, gimp. It comes from, I believe it comes from, there's no set origin that I've seen, but it comes from veterans who kind of called themselves that word, and they were usually injured or disabled because of wartime. And
Mm,
so, um, and so I just wanted to turn that into something positive. You know, I used to say things like just me and my gimpy self. Um, you better gimp it up. That kind of means just do it. That's like in all your limitations and your loveliness, you just have to kind of keep going, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a pep talk or
Mm-hmm.
a mantra to get yourself moving and say, this is how it's going to go. You're going to look gimpy because you kind of are. You have a wheelchair. You have to carry this around with you, but you're going to go through it and you're going to get it done anyway.
Wow. Yeah.
that's awesome.
And I was looking at the first chapter in your book where you was talking about the first one about making an impact on your environment because you can't control it. And I know how some people be wanting to, they just love to be in control.
Yep.
I'm just one of those. But, I had to learn that I cannot have control over everything. But there are some things that I can control. And that's me. That's number one thing. I can control my reaction or my attitude, my behavior and
Right.
but also my decisions.
Mm-hmm.
because this is my life, and God has given all of us a free will, so we can
That's right.
control ourselves. But when
That's
it
right.
comes to people around us,
Mm-hmm.
around us, we have no control over a person who walk over to us and say something negative,
Right.
or say something that hurts your feelings, or do
Mm-hmm.
something to you that hurts your feelings. But you
Right.
do have control over what you say back.
Yes.
So I sit here and I think to myself, should I make an impact on your life on today, even though you came over here and just to taunt me, or to ridicule me, or to hurt my feelings, or whatever the case may be?
Mm-hmm.
So we are so quick to be offended by what somebody does, but sometimes you do have to take into consideration of that other person, because we don't know where they came from. We don't know
Right.
how they were raised. We don't know nothing. All we know is that you walked over here to me, or you came and blocked my way. You know what I'm saying? You come over here and into my space.
Yep. He bothered me.
Thank you. Bother you.
I'm over here minding
Bother.
my own business.
Thank you. I
Right.
didn't ask. Look, first of all, I didn't ask you to come over
Yes.
here. And then even people, you don't even ask advice, but they want to offer advice, suggest advice.
Yeah, just
Right.
unwarranted. Unwanted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Unwanted,
telling you, baby,
unsolicited.
I didn't ask you
Right.
for no suggestion.
Yes. And
But
you do have to control your response. And you also have to choose your battles. I mean, some days,
Yes.
I do a lot of advocacy, obviously for myself, but also for,
mhm,
general population of people with disabilities. And there's some things I don't really worry about anymore. I'm
mhm,
like, I'm sorry you're not going to get any education today, but I just don't feel like it. Like that's what I think in my head sometimes because I'll be exhausted, advocating and trying to tell the powers that be, maybe government officials, maybe board of supervisors members in my community, maybe transportation officials about what my community needs, that the person in the supermarket, they get a pass today. Let the ignorant remain ignorant and just keep moving. I got to get my groceries. I got to get out of here. I got to get away from you. Maybe somebody else will have time to school you, another day. So you just have to be okay that sometimes you're not going
Right.
to reach everybody. And sometimes you're going to let that go. And
mhm,
hopefully, by your larger advocacy efforts, this show can even be a platform. Obviously, it already is. They can get that awareness through that, but you don't have to be responsible for every single person getting schooled and bringing about awareness for everyone. You just try to do it as much as you
mhm.
can where you can, and then give yourself a pass for days that you just don't feel like it, like you're exhausted of doing that every single day, and sometimes you just don't want to, even though that person really really needs it. You're just kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've learned that in life as well. Just with I think with everything that we kind of come across, is you just have to choose your battles. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it you don't even want to give it any energy. It's just you almost feel like why, just why, especially depending on the person, depending
Mm-hmm.
on the circumstances. So I've learned to do that quite a bit now. I just
Mm-hmm.
choose my battles.
And also you have to be careful because this world is not like what it used to be. You used to be able to have a
That's
conversation
correct.
with people. If I'm out by myself and just because I start to educate someone and they want to argue with me, I don't know if they have a Glock in the car. Like I don't have
Right.
time, to people are getting so riled up about everything that it's hard to really listen to one another. And so that's another reason just to protect your own self.
Right.
And just because you don't really know who you're dealing with, you give a pass anyway and just run away, just get away
Yeah,
like this. I got to go. Sorry you feel that way. Bye bye.
yeah. Because they do have the right to their own opinion, but
Absolutely.
True.
um, you know, some people don't want to just agree to disagree.
Hmm.
But you just have to find your way to get away from them.
Right.
Mhm.
And some people are never going to be, they're never going to be changed.
Yeah,
With every breath in your body, even if you had the opportunity to talk to them every single day, they still just not will not be changed. And
That's
that's
so
okay.
true.
That's fine too. You
mm,
don't have that kind of time. I'm sure you have many other things to do than, have individual conversations to build people's awareness, unfortunately.
exactly. And you don't have to.
Hmm.
Mm-mm. I sure
Yeah.
don't. Mm-mm. Even,
Bye
even,
bye.
even on people that's on your job, you just be like, "Oh, girl, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Hmm.
Get this done for my boss. I'll be right back." Or probably won't even be back, but I just, trying to get away. It's a way you can get away from people that you just don't have to entertain. But
Hmm.
some people are not. They just. We all have to learn. We all have to learn to know what we got to get away from and when to get away. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people will just hang around even longer, even though you want to get up and walk away, or just
Hmm.
say, "I'm going to the restroom," or I have to go. But
Right.
some people still sit there, and you don't have to. I'm just
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
you really don't have to sit and entertain anyone that's making you feel some type of way. Uh,
That's right.
that's
Hmm.
making you feel uncomfortable. And that's even on your job, at church. I don't care what it is.
Hmm.
You do
Everywhere.
not have to sit
Family
there.
gathering anywhere.
Hmm.
Anywhere. You don't have to sit there and entertain, but you just find strategies on how to exclude yourself
Right.
respectfully.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that's something that we all have to learn to do.
Hmm.
There are some people that don't have to learn. They just say, "Look, you can just get the black eye of my face. You don't got, that's the people who really just say what they gotta say."
Yeah, and
But,
just also with people's mental health, you have to really block a lot of things that are coming at you, so just so you can stay in a good place. And so those kind of things can infiltrate you, can make you more stressed out, a lot of more increasingly mental health issues with people
yeah,
going on, and a lot of hidden mental health issues. And sometimes I think for myself, if you guard what enters your psyche and your mind and what you see, like there's some certain movies I won't watch just because I know I don't want to go there, if they're extremely violent, or if they have some ideations of bad things. I will never ever, I vow not to ever watch them, because that's just not where I want to go. That's not where I want to be. Not just movies, but books or shows. I think people have to do better at protecting themselves, protecting
That's
their mental
true.
health,
That's
and
true.
keeping those, for lack of a better word, just those little devils from getting in. And it's there that changes their thought process and leads them down a dark road. And that could be the same with what people say to you about your limitations or your disability or your unfavorite things about yourself, because you start to believe those. If you let them in, you start to believe them.
That's
And
right.
all of a sudden you're in someone's office, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you're in someone's office, and you need strong drugs to kind of bring you back to a place of calm. And so
mhm,
you don't ever want to get that way. And a lot of that starts with what you allow inside
What we take
your
in.
head.
That's true.
Hmm.
mhm. and and the key word is what you allow.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yep, it's on
Not
you.
the
You
other
have
person.
to.
Yeah.
You have to
We
be
have the
vigilant.
control.
You have to
Yeah,
stay vigilant.
exactly. Because your second part was about controlling yourself.
Hmm.
Um, you said that you face adversity every day and sometimes have to abandon original plans due to physical limitation. And you said yes, you hate it, and it may be you know it may weigh heavily on you emotionally, but you just have to be okay with that and just come up with another plan, basically.
Definitely. I mean, it happens daily, in just the sense, going back to the caregiver issue. Some caregivers don't value that you are a person and that you
Hmm.
have a life. to live. And by them coming on time, ready and not needing, a lot of counseling themselves sometimes and a little pep talk to get up, and help me. There's a lot of conversations going on, sometimes when people come in, something happened to them on the way. And I'm thinking like, you're late. There's no real time for conversation. I have to get to work or I have to get to this meeting, and not to be insensitive. It's just that, you know, people sometimes you have to be careful. People are all about them, and say, look, we're
Very
already
true.
missing 30 minutes. And so I'm going to be late to my thing. We can't really have a lot of chatter. I can't wear the outfit I wanted because, maybe I gave you, let you go early because you asked and you said you would iron something, the next morning. So all these things, I got to kind of change, and fix so I can cut down on the time that we have so I can get out the door. So just those little things, and they start to pile up. I mean, if you're late and then you didn't miss the traffic, you're suddenly in all the traffic, and then your boss gets on you because you're late. It's like a snowball, and people just don't realize sometimes that you're dependent on somebody else to live your life, and they don't take it seriously. But
Yeah.
they want all the accommodations in the world for when they have stuff to do. People have to be careful about that. You want everything. Like I know, a lot of people, told me, um, like when they get injured. So, if you have to break your leg or something and you get injured and you have to use a wheelchair for 6 weeks. So many people, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how many doors don't have handles. It was a real struggle. All of a sudden they want
Mhm.
everything to be fixed because now they have an issue. Well, they didn't advocate for anything while they were upright and while they had some power. But it's like after you're injured, then why don't there more automatic doors? My goodness, what's happening? It's like, I'm like, okay, where you been? It's been like that for several years. Um, it's just kind of an awareness thing again
Mhm.
that people don't think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think we're all guilty of that. Those of us that
And
are
me
not
too.
are
Yeah.
not dealing with a lot of, limitations.
Yep.
I think
Sorry
to
about
some degree we're all guilty of that. And it's not
Mhm.
until we, have to depend on something to get through or whatever the case is when you become more aware. And I have to use my mother's disability as a great awareness for me because now she's a part of the a blind center here in Arizona, which I'm so happy. She gets out, she get around people that's like her. Because like I tell her, kind of in our world, I use the phrase, she's like the underdog. Because all of us have our visions. We're moving along through life with no problems, no nothing. We still drive. My mother can no longer
Mhm.
drive day or night. Like
that.
all those little things like that have been taken from
Mhm.
her. And I had an opportunity to go visit the blind center and just to see like all of these people that look like her, you know. But I loved it because they were living life. But because I saw it, it just made me more aware
Right.
Mhm.
of the limitations they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, it really allowed me to take a moment to be humble and to be
Mm-hmm.
grateful for what I
Right.
have and also just be more aware of those that have those limitations. I'm
Mhm.
blessed, I'm fortunate. I can get up every day, I can go walk. I don't need someone to drive for me. I don't need someone to write for me. I don't need someone to cook for me. I can do all those
Right.
things where my mother is
Mm-hmm.
limited in those things or some she just can't do it all. And just seeing her in that cluster of other individuals like her, it made my heart smile for one, because I'm like, these people, man, they made my heart smile. They just up and going. They was
Mm-hmm.
dancing. And I'm
Mhm.
looking like you would never even think they were blind because here they are on the dance floor with their sticks
Mhm.
and getting their
Mhm.
own food. And I'm like, oh my God. So
Right.
one, my heart smiled, but it just made me just got more aware, wake up a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
to people that are in our world that
Yeah.
have limitations and not just blindness, such as yourself and your limitations and anyone else, just to be more mindful and aware. And hopefully, all of us, including myself, can be an advocate before we need it. You know,
Right. That's the
it's
thing.
not what we
Yes.
need is when we become an advocate, but be
Hmm.
one prior to that.
Yeah, and there's plenty of work to do, and what you saw, out there, taking care of your mom is just also what happens when you embrace the issues that you have and go ahead and try to live your life. I mean, some of them were very probably excited to have an opportunity where they could be among their peers and feel
Yeah.
more accepted sometimes.
Mhm.
I know that I work for an organization that has a number of other people with disabilities because I really enjoyed that. And then corporate and government America were really difficult because there wasn't anybody who really understood. That's not always going to be the case because you have to sometimes be in a place where you can teach others, but sometimes you just want to run to people that are like you and not have to
Mhm.
explain, that somebody was late and that's why I'm late. And
Yeah.
people who already understand that. So, but that wouldn't
Mhm.
happen. There's lots of people who are not accepting and who stayed home and couldn't see the value of being out and enjoying, a
Wow.
dance or whatever it was. And that not accepting that or resisting that for however long you do keeps you from really being out there and living to the best of your
Mhm.
ability and living a really full life.
Mhm.
Lots of people are sitting at home bitter,
Right.
resisting their disability instead of getting
Mhm.
out there and just,
You're right.
like I said, giving it up, and just doing whatever they can.
You're so right. And you're so right. And that's why I pushed my mom because she's independent, feisty woman, no matter what. But I wanted her to get around peers such as her because I can only imagine, being in her shoes. And she's been
Hmm.
like this for quite some time. But, the older she's getting, I could tell, and what I'm sharing is nothing that we haven't spoken, which is why I'm exposing a few, just, surface stuff
Right.
on here today. But at the same time, I can tell that it has its moments with
Hmm.
anything, with any of us,
Yeah.
with a limitation. It has its moments. Some days, most days, you probably great, but it's just
Right.
those days where it's like, wow, you really sit and you really think like, I have this. This
Right.
is my setback here. I can't do this. I can't do that. I know for my mom, she has constant reminders of what she cannot do, you know,
Always. Yeah.
constant reminders. So I know that gets her down. So I was an advocate for her, like, get in the blind and get out.
Hmm.
You are a vibrant woman, even with your, disability. Don't
Mhm.
let this shake you. Don't let this keep you down. Keep moving. Keep your body moving. Because
Mhm.
stop, like you talking about with muscles, those
Hmm.
joints and things are locked up. So I'm like, get out of this house.
Yes. Keep going. Keep going.
So I'm so
Yes.
glad she's amongst, peers that she can relate to. And it's so funny because she's been an inspiration to them probably more than anything because she walked in, actually, she has better vision than the rest of them.
Hmm.
So she's almost the top dog
Right. Right.
here.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely. And also, I was going to say that it's important for people to realize that you know what your limitations are. You don't need people to remind you.
Right.
There
Yeah.
was something that a publicist sent out recently for an event, a multi author event that I was going to go to. And, I had a really hard time telling her that under my name, I didn't need a label that said uses a wheelchair needs wheelchair access. I had already spoken with her and I spoken with the venue to make sure it was accessible. And so I didn't appreciate that kind of like descriptor, for everybody. It was a list with
Hmm.
all the authors that were going to come. Right.
Mhm.
And so I already did my due diligence of working it out with the venue. I'm going to be there. I use a wheelchair. Is the place accessible? I'd really like to come. I'm one of the authors. I'd like to participate. And so just for them to do that with not even really asking me, like, I don't need you to tell everybody, that, oh, here comes the lady in the wheelchair. It was
Right.
on that paper I saw. She uses a wheelchair. I'm like, okay, fine, but there's no need to continue to, and plus it's like everybody, will know when I get there, oh, you're the lady in the wheelchair. Like, yes, yes, okay, great. I already know I'm in a wheelchair. Like it's so redundant. Like you don't have to do that. And so I had a really hard time. I wrote the email like, 10 times, because you don't want to come across rude. she's helping, plan the event and publicize it, and you don't want to lose any momentum with anything. You don't want to have any bad feelings, but you still have to tell people, there's no need to put that label on this paper that you're going to send out to everybody
Yeah.
about who's going to be
Mhm.
there. Why can't I just be an author? Why can't I just be,
Yeah.
and I could see if I had told her that I called and everything's fine, so and so, it's going to work out. I'll be able to come. I'll be there. But for her to take it upon herself and kind of do that, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put, under a
Yeah.
paper, she's blind, look for
Right.
the lady with
Right.
the cane. Like, who does that?
Mhm.
So I was really
Yeah.
annoyed. But I also had to realize this person's, age, their own experience, where they come from, what they've been taught. She could have been totally, it was an innocent thing on her part, probably. She didn't know it would offend me, but it was just not
Yeah.
necessary.
She probably thought it was helping.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
have to think where people are coming
exactly.
coming from,
Yeah,
but also that it further really stigmatizes people, because
it
people will
does.
read that and be like, oh, we better clear out the whole building so she can get around, and then
That's
other
true.
people will get there like, well, where's all the tables? Oh, we clear them out for the lady in the wheelchair, so like, okay, great, now we don't have anything to sign on, you don't have to go. I've already
Lord.
worked out all that stuff, so there's no need for that extra label stuff.
Oh, that's good. But Tracy, we do enjoy we are enjoying your conversation, and I was just looking at the time, and I was like, oh Lord, we went over 45 minutes, and, like like I tell Felicia all the time, when we get on this talk phone, we can go over uh,
Hmm.
the time,
Yeah.
but before we leave, I
Hmm.
do want you to just give some empowering points to anyone who may be struggling with any type of issues that's dealing with limitation. Is
Hmm.
there anything that you would like to leave with them, just in case they come across this video and they just might need some encouragement?
Sure. I think in my Packlight book, there's a couple of things that I have just for how to embrace your favorites and how to deal with the
Mm,
day-to-day situations. And a couple of things are, just remember that you have a voice, and you have choice and opportunities. You can make an impact, on the environment and on people around you, and that is still good enough. We talked about, controlling yourself, controlling your response. That's all you have. That's all you have is your response and your way to handle things. And if you learn to master that, you can be truly, really successful. And people will think you're, one of the most happy-go-lucky people. You have to develop resilience and an attitude where things really
Yeah.
roll off your back, and that will really take you far. And then, the last thing is that sometimes you have to work through things. If you get a diagnosis for something, you have to research. You have to get out there. You have to get some friends. You have to get a cheering section. But you also must arm yourself with knowledge. It's the unknown that is the most scary thing. So you're thinking about something, you don't know what it is. You have a label, or you have the doctor gives you a diagnosis or something. That's really scary. But what really can reduce that scariness is finding out how other people deal with it. You are not the first one, and you won't be the last to go through something. There are tons of other
right.
people, and we really operate sometimes by ourselves. Sometimes we're woe is me. We think we're the only person going through something,
That is
but
so
it's
true.
really in the network that you can really get peace of mind, and
Yeah.
realize that you're going to be okay, and also get resources and tools just by talking to other people. Some of my caregivers have brought me some awesome knowledge. I try to give them knowledge about things, about that I have to do. And then they take that to their clients and say, Tracee said, try this or try that. And so
Mhm.
that kind of network, whether it's online or in your community, especially when you're isolated, online is a wonderful community of
Yeah, it
people
is.
who have had all kinds of things. All you got to do is type a few words and just reach out, and you will get plenty of resources and develop some friendships and long lasting relationships that can really impact you and have a positive impact on you and your ability to cope and to deal and to get through this life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And where can anyone purchase your book, Tracee?
All my books are on Amazon, or you can read about my books and about me at TraceeGarner.com.
Okay.
Great.
And do you mind putting that under the live inside the video once we get off, so that
Okay.
anybody can just click on that link, right
Okay.
there from the video.
Mm-hmm.
So, Miss Tracy, we want to say thank you again for
Thank
being with
you
us on
both so much.
tonight.
It was a pleasure having you.
Mm,
Thanks.
we enjoyed you, and
Yes,
we learned a lot, of course, and knowing that it's okay to be different, and you do have to get yourself out there more,
right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And how to embrace those unfavorites.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
I love that.
They're going
have
to be
to
with you a long
embrace
time. You
them.
might as well
You're
go and
right.
embrace them.
Mhm. Yes, most definitely. You do want to embrace them, not hate on them, but embrace them.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. I love it.
Yeah. And so we're going to get ready to close out, Tracy. So I'm gonna take you off the screen,
Okay.
and Felicia gonna close it out. But tell everybody goodbye. Good night,
Bye. Bye,
Tracy.
Tracy.
Bye.
Thank you so much again.
Mhm.
So we
That
thank
was
you all
awesome.
who has joined us on this live tonight, and we hope you all have enjoyed it just as much as me and Felicia have.
Right.
Mm,
Very informative.
yeah,
Very.
most definitely. And we will be back here on next Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Central
Central.
Standard Time, and 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time,
There you go.
8:30 p.m. Eastern
Eastern. Yep.
Standard Time. And we will still be talking about being beautifully flawed versus dysfunctional. So y'all come on back next Sunday, and we will be happy to have another engaging discussion.
Join us.
Yes, please join us. But if you have not already done so, please show some love with those hearts, y'all, and share this live. You know, y'all have to show us some love now so that we can continue to be on here. We're gonna be on here regardless if you show them hearts or not.
I
But
mean, regardless.
thank you, because there's so many things that we can talk about.
So much.
That people want to just sweep up under the rug like it ain't happening. But guess what?
It's happening.
It's happening. You sure right, Felicia. It's
And
happening.
we talking.
And we talk. You are so right. We talking. You may not be talking about it in the big crowds and out in the public area or out on Facebook Live, even though we do have some Facebook Live where people are really talking.
Right.
But we most definitely need to be having a talk about things that people want to sweep up under the rug like it ain't happening. So come on back next Sunday, and we are so thankful for you joining us on the
Yeah.
evening. Felicia, you want to say anything, lady?
I just want to say thank you to all of our viewers that join us every weekend. We do not take this lightly. We appreciate
No.
all of you. We come here every week with topics that we feel are vital to have a communication about things that we consider that are swept up under the rug or dealt with from a more surface level. We don't call ourselves specialists or anything like that. I know I don't.
Of
But
course.
we have our experiences in life, and we
Mhm.
just bring our experiences together along with some of our guests to share that insight with you, like we did tonight, where it's just informative information, make us aware, make
Yeah.
us able to push forward, whatever that may be. So again, thank you all. I love you. We love you for joining Talk Form.
Yes. And I just have to add on there, Felicia, you do not have to be a specialist to encourage anyone, to
That's right.
empower
Say that.
anyone. No, you do not. You do not have to be a specialist to empower and educate
That's
and
right.
you know, what is the other word? Empower, educate, and encourage somebody. Yeah,
That is
because
so true. Absolutely. You do not.
we all have issues of life, but if you see a sister or brother that's in need, it's okay to go and be concerned and be willing to help them.
Right. Right.
But when
Any
you
way that
help
you
them,
can.
and thank you, in the way that you can. And if you see that you can't help them, then lead
Direct
them
them
to
in a way.
somebody that can.
Right.
Thank you. Lead them to somebody that can. Don't be having them feeling bad now because they
No,
already feeling bad.
no,
Just
no.
lead them to someone who can. Because issues of life incorporation is all about making sure that that people know that there are resources out there
Yes,
for you for every need. For every need. You just have to find it. And if you can't find it, someone knows. So,
right.
um, again, we thank you. We'll be back on next Sunday, y'all. So y'all come on back. All right.
Bye.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.